I'm going to be honest with you, YouTube. Right now, I'm a broken man. This is my third time trying to record this flipping video. The first time I didn't like it, so I deleted it and I was like, nah, we'll go again. And then the second time I did this incredible take, which I was so happy with. And then I went to turn off the recording and I suddenly realised I'd never turned on the microphone. Absolutely devastating. Right, what is going on YouTube? My name is Ash Porter and thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, what I want to talk about is what you've seen in the title or the thumbnail or whatever. I want to talk about my reflection on this last year of COVID and lockdowns. So the video will kind of be in two rough bits. I want to start off by basically saying what's happened this year, specifically to me, what's happened in my life. And then the second part is what am I learning from this year? What am I taking away with me? What am I learning from this horrific year of COVID and lockdowns? And so, like many of you, I'm sure, this year has been hard, right? Like, let's just get past the crap. It's been a rough year. So much has happened. I want to specifically focus on COVID related stuff, not everything else that has gone on this year. But it's been a rubbish year. But it's also been a year where I think it's just been full of life, despite being locked inside, despite not being able to socialise, despite the fear of COVID and all that it's caused. A lot has gone on. And so my COVID year started, me and Steph, we've been married maybe like 6 months. We got married in October 2019, right? And before then we hadn't lived together, we hadn't shared a space. And so we were very much still learning, how do we do life together? How do we share a one bedroom flat together? How do we cope with that? And in lockdown, it was just like, I mean, to be honest, we actually coped really well. We're still married now. We worked through it. And it actually went well, you know. We quite enjoyed it most of the time. And we didn't really struggle. But we were still very much learning, how do we share this space? When do we leave each other alone? When do we spend time together? How do we both work in the same space? It was an interesting experience, but it was good at the end of the day. And equally at the same time, we were both finishing our degrees. We were both doing the same degree. That's another story for another day. But we were in our final year. And so we spent the last few months of our degree locked in a flat, trying to get through our dissertation, the final few essays. And you know what? It was well hard. I don't know if anyone else had this experience. But at first, despite the fact I did most of my work from home anyway, suddenly being locked inside, everything going on with COVID, I found my levels of concentration were so low. I found it so hard to sit down and write my essays and to just concentrate. It was a nightmare. But we got through it. And then we hit the summer, and before we go on to a big event, like a medium-sized event, is I got to be a best man in the summer. You know, there was a period where restrictions were lifting and there were 30 people weddings. Do you remember that? I was a best man in that time and it was so much fun. It was so special being at this intimate 30-person wedding and being so involved. That was definitely a highlight of my COVID year. But then following that, me and Steph, we actually moved. We went from living in North Watford, that's north of London, to North Wales. There's a lot of norths in there, but we're not even that far north. But we are now living in North Wales. The reason we moved here is because we got some jobs here, which is so exciting. We were really excited about, and we are enjoying. You know, it's challenging at times because any job is challenging. It's the first time when we're in real positions of leadership and authority and responsibility, and that can be tough at times, but we're also loving it. We're growing loads, we're learning loads, and we're getting settled in. But one of the most crazy things about that move as well is, the same time, August, just as things were lifting, we actually didn't have anywhere to move into. So this beautiful house we're renting and living in now with my pride and joy bookcase, that wasn't, it existed, but we didn't have the right to live there yet. We actually ended up, for our first 6 weeks here, living with some friends of ours who we work with in their house, they were so kind to take us in and look after us. Cute little Ash and Steph. But the craziest thing about the story is our friends, they have 5 kids. And at the time, last summer, all 5 of them were under the age of 6. Now that house was chaos, yet equally so calm. It was such an amazing experience. We loved it, but equally my introvert brain felt like it was about to explode by the time we left. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to live with them. And just, it like grew our friendship so quickly and advanced it. But equally, I was well happy when we got this place and I got my own space. So it was a bit of a mad summer. Honestly, moving in COVID was pretty grim as well because we never really got to say goodbye to our friends in Watford. We did like a little bit, but in general, we weren't. And we were part of a church there, a big community, and we never really got to say goodbye, which was pretty sad. But I guess that's just one of the things that happens in lockdown. And then what else happened this year? Oh yeah, me and Steph have both been trying to learn to drive. That's been pretty crazy because it's been so disrupted. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience or knows anyone else. It's been a nightmare trying to learn to drive. And so we still haven't. We've had loads of lessons, but tests keep getting pushed back. My lessons keep getting cancelled. Stupid lockdowns. And also, one of the other things, again, other people probably share this, is I've really got into running in this last year. I was kind of running before COVID came. Like I'd been running for a few months, but obviously I continued it into lockdown. I was really keen. But one of the most annoying things happened is that just when you want to be able to exercise and get out of your house, I end up getting a stress fracture in my foot from running. And I couldn't run for a few months. And it was so annoying. It was such a nightmare. And it's so frustrating. And then equally this year, get into a good habit of running the last few months. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I've never had them in my life, I get shin splints. It's like, come on world, you've already given me COVID. You've already locked me inside. Can you at least let me go out and run and stay fit? You know, I feel like right now, probably because of COVID and being inspired to try and keep myself healthy mentally and physically, I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been in as an adult. You know, as a teenager where you just like have ridiculous metabolism, and I was playing sport, like especially when I was like 13, 14, so many times a week. You know, I was obviously in great shape then, but I'm now probably in the best shape of my adult life, and I feel so much better mentally and physically because of it. And I'd probably say that's only really happened because of COVID. So in that sense, big up COVID. But one of the biggest things that happened this year for me is I took a risk. Back in like March, April last year, if anyone else went through this, please tell me. I kind of just started reflecting about where am I heading in life? What am I doing with my life? What am I going to be doing for the next 10, 15 years? Am I happy with it? And I wasn't sure. I wasn't totally convinced I was happy with where I was headed. And I was like, maybe I could try some other stuff. I've read so much recently and then about how you have to try and you have to be willing to fail to try and achieve stuff, to try and be successful. You have to try a lot of different things. And so I had this crazy idea. Now, to give it a lot of context, growing up, I played a lot of video games, like probably borderline, if not addicted to video games, but I loved them. They gave me life, I'm going to be honest. There was a lot of escapism, but I so enjoyed it. And then when I was 20, I moved away from home. I kind of stopped taking video games as serious. I still played them very casually. A little bit of PS4. You might be able to see it in the background here. Probably not. But not really a lot. And then I had this mad idea. I was like, I loved video games. Specifically, I loved World of Warcraft, right? I'm absolutely fuming. I'm mid-flow. I've failed 2 takes, and then suddenly my memory card decides it's full. Oh my days, right, where was I? Right, so World of Warcraft was my game, right? Borderline addicted. I decided, you know what? I should give it a go trying to become a pro World of Warcraft player. I haven't played the game in years, but I love it. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to become a Twitch streamer. I'm going to become a YouTuber. I'm going to become a gamer, right? And so I make this plan. Now, this plan stretches from April to October, mainly because, one, we couldn't afford all the equipment yet because it costs money to do this stuff. I'll come on to that in a minute. But second, in the flat we lived in Watford, we just didn't have the space for it. So it just wasn't a feasible thing. So I was like, you know what? This new expansion's coming out in like November. I'm going to launch just before that and I'm going to do it and I'm going to go for it. So I spent months, right? I spent months learning how to Photoshop, learning how to make like graphics, how to make thumbnails, all this kind of stuff. I spent months learning how to use Premiere Pro, how to edit videos, how to just make videos look cool, which these don't because they aren't gaming, but I made some alright like gaming videos. And then I also, in that time, I built my own PC. Now, I'd never touched the inside of a computer in my life. I didn't know like hardly anything about it, but thanks to the beautiful thing which is YouTube, and honestly, you can learn anything on YouTube, I was able to build a PC. I spent a lot of money on it, but I built it myself. I bought the parts and put it together. And honestly, that was such a proud moment for me. All of three of those things, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, like video editing, building a PC, I would never have done if it wasn't for this project. Anyway, so those are the things I learned. Preparation, it got to October and I'll tell you now, I did it for 2 months, barely 2 months, and then I stopped. I gave it in. I was like, Steph, I'm not sure I can do this. There was a lot of factors to that, which I won't share them all now. But one of the main ones was my brain just couldn't handle it. I told you how when I was younger, and now probably still, this addiction is real for me, right? And my brain just couldn't handle it. It was too consuming in my life. And I was like, you know what? If this is what it's like when I'm doing this part-time on the side, trying to make it, what happens if I get full-time? How much is it going to consume in my life? And, you know, other things were missing out in my life and it just wasn't worth it at the end of the day. But I was devastated. I felt like I'd had this golden idea which I was going to spend years trying to achieve. And I gave up after 2 months. I felt like such a failure. I felt like, what have I done? I've told so many people about this. But failure is okay. If I've learned anything from one, that experience, and two, what I've read, it's okay to fail. There's this book it's not on here, what I'm about to read called Failing to the Top. And like you speak to anyone who's successful, they are going to say how they had 1 million failures on their way. And so that's just one of mine and I'm learning from it. You know, without that adventure, I would never have started this YouTube channel. This idea to talk about my passion, a healthy passion, which is about books and reading and learning. I would never have learned how to use a camera or start learning photography. And it's opened up all these doors which would never have opened, these ideas which would never have come before, all because COVID made me question where I was headed and it inspired some creativity and risk-taking within me. And so in many ways, I want to say big up COVID, because without it, I wouldn't be making this video. And so that's some of the other stuff basically that's happened in my year, and that's some of the stuff I've learned from this. And some of the final things I want to share about what I've learned is, you know, I've learned how to build a PC, I've learned how to use Adobe stuff, I've learned roughly how to use a camera and film videos, and started learning photography, and there's been other things along the way. But one of the biggest things I've learned, and I think we've all learned, is the importance of community. What has made this year so hard is the fact that we've been in many ways cut off. You know, we've had amazing things like Zoom and FaceTime and, you know, just the fact we have instant messaging, all this kind of stuff. It has helped us stay connected in so many ways. Yet, there's nothing like being in the same room as your best friends. There's nothing like chilling and hanging out for a few days with your family. There's nothing like giving people a hug, you know? And this has been taken away from us in this last year. Now, me, I'm a massive introvert, so I'm very content with my own space, being selfish with my time, having sort of a lack of social interaction. Yet, even saying that, I've really missed people. Like, me and Steph, we were part of an amazing church back in Watford. And like I said, we never got to say goodbye. And I really missed that community. And here, again, we're part of a church here. And it's like, well, we're part of this community. But most of the people we've only ever met on Zoom. And it's like, I just want to meet these people and get to know them. And even my family. Like in this last year, I've genuinely probably seen my family twice. Like, how crazy. Obviously, I've Zoomed them and all that kind of stuff, but how crazy is that? It's been really tough, but it has just highlighted how important community is. And I hope that coming out of COVID, which hopefully we are now, who knows what the future holds, but we'll hold on to that. I hope I will hold on to that value of how important people are. You know, COVID took away our choice. I used to be able to choose whether I went out or not, whether I went to a social event, whether I saw this person or that person. Now I don't have a choice. I want that choice back and I want to make the most of it. And so COVID has brought up so much, it's brought up so much pain, there's been so much suffering. I can't imagine what people who have had lost loved ones feel like. I can't imagine what those guys working in the NHS and all those like key worker roles are feeling like right now. You know, in many ways, I had a great year. I was able to experiment. I was able to try new stuff. I was able to learn and give stuff a go while other people are out there slaving away, saving lives. So I feel lucky for the last year, even though it has been really hard. I'm really grateful for it. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I hope you have too. I hope that my reflection on what's gone on for me makes you think a little bit about your year and what are you going to learn? What are you going to take away from this as we're coming out of this third lockdown, and hopefully the light is coming at the end of the tunnel and we're nearly there. What are you going to learn from this experience? How are you going to be changed by it? That's my challenge to you. Thank you so much for watching this video, despite the technical difficulties. I have been Ash Porter, and I'll see you next time.